All right. What we know for sure is that there was a seizure of 1.5 tons of suspected narcotics in Hamburg, Germany, and this happened 2 days ago, which was Monday. Based upon what I've gotten from my colleagues across there thus far, and from our own investigations that we've commenced, like any other seizure overseas that has some connection to do with Guyana, CANU is mandated, and we've always done it in terms of doing a thorough investigation to see exactly if the narcotics was moved from Guyana or there might be some other connections along the way. So what we've known so far about this shipment is that the container originated from Guyana, and yes, it was packed with rice from Guyana. The vessel sailed from Guyana on the 25th of May and went to another country where everything was offloaded, including the container in question. That container stayed in that country for 6 days before being loaded onto another vessel and then onto Germany. So those are the things we're looking at this time. In terms, we know the date, we know the container number, we know the shipper, we know which wharf it was loaded from, we know the ship, and we know the journey or the route of the container. We know that for sure. So those are the things we're looking at. I'm working with the Guyana Revenue Authority in terms of seeing what assistance they could provide, as well as the Guyana Rice Development Board. Because of course those are critical entities. One has to do with rice and one has to do with the entire processing and the shipping of the container. So those are the areas that we're looking at. I cannot at this time divulge more to you to see exactly what other information we have. I would prefer to wait on the investigators to give me a thorough brief on that, and before I could give you a definite position if the narcotics was loaded from Guyana or it was more of a rip-on, meaning that as the container, as it did say, was in transit in another country and the narcotics was placed there. 1.5 tons of narcotics is quite a lot. We know the street value locally would be around 1.6 billion Guyana dollars. So to move that amount, and based upon what we know here, it's quite a challenge. It will call for a lot of coordination from various people. So we're looking at all angles as the investigation continues to see exactly what transpired with this movement of the narcotics.
Say you have a date and you have the warrant that was removed from. Is there a possibility that you will try to check the surveillance cameras around there too as well?
Certainly. That is part of our investigations, and once the images are still there, first of all, providing that their surveillance cameras are wrong and those images are steered, because you would appreciate this is in excess of 2 months we're looking at. All right, 25th of May is when the container left Guyana. We don't know at the time when it was scanned, if it was scanned, what date it was scanned, when it went into the wharf. All of that we have to now take into consideration. So there's a lot has to be done to really get down to see exactly what happened, to get to the bottom of it. Certainly, and we've been getting that support thus far. So I'm very optimistic that in another couple of days we'll be able to get down to the bottom of it.
Any possibility of the shipper being interviewed if you want to identify the persons?
We have identified the shipper. I've spoken to the shipper directly, and they have been cooperating in terms of providing all the information in terms of the containers that were used to ship during that period. So we've had those information already coming from the shipper, and the investigators at some point will be talking to the shipper. What we're focusing right now, which I think is more pertinent, is to go back to what transpired in the last few days before the container departed Guyana. So we're working from there going back, and that is critical for us at this time.
All right, outside of that, Mr. Pemberton, still a person of interest to CANU?
For Mr. Pemberton, certainly, he's still a person of interest to CANU. As you are aware, there is an arrest warrant out there for Mr. Pemberton, and certainly we would still like to talk to Mr. Pemberton.
Anything else you want to add?
At this time, I would say that CANU continues to be the leading agency for the fight against narcotics in Guyana. We will continue to push that drive, as anyone who have looked around and been following what has been happening with the flow of narcotics in Guyana in the last couple of years would realize there has been a significant reduction in the flow of narcotics or smuggling of narcotics in and out of Guyana. And that has a lot to do with the work that CANU has been doing in collaboration with other stakeholders. So I would say I would like to commend all of my ranks in the work that we're doing, and we continue to remain a very professional organization. And we will continue for every Guyanese, for the sake of every Guyanese and this country, to fight against the narcotics trade.
With the efforts that you've been making over the past years, when an incident like this happens, how does that make you feel in your own words?
Quite frankly, it's very discouraging. One is because you know you're doing so much. Of course, traffickers will go to any extent to ensure that their commodity gets to wherever destination it's intended for. But it's very discouraging knowing that you're doing so much, but at the same time, you have to keep pushing. You cannot allow that to get you to that extent where you're going to give up. Right? Yes, it's discouraging, it could be frustrating, but you have to keep pushing. And use that as a strength to continue and keep encouraging all your subordinates to keep pushing and understand that the drug trade is here, it's going to go on. It's going to be very difficult for us to eliminate it, but we have seen significant successes, and that is what we have to strive on. You're welcome.